Young Wolf and Spirit Horse by Janice Shefelman, illustrated by Tom Shefelman. Chapter 1. Night Visitor. Young Wolf did not want anyone to steal his horse, Red Wind, so every night he tied her rope to his wrist. "You are my best friend," he told the mare. "You are the smartest, most beautiful horse in the village, and you understand me." Red Wind turned her ears to catch his words. "If the Apaches come," he said, "tug on your rope." "Mm," Red Wind answered. Young Wolf knew that meant yes. Young Wolf crawled inside the teepee and into his soft bed. "Good night," said Voice of the Sunrise. "Good night, Mother." Soon Young Wolf fell asleep. He did not hear Spirit Horse come and chew the rope into two. He did not wake up when Spirit Horse and Red Wind galloped away. At first light, Young Wolf opened his eyes. He tugged on Red Wind's rope. Something was wrong. The rope was loose. He rushed outside. Red Wind was gone. Young Wolf looked for the hoof prints. There they were, leading to the meadow. He knew that they were Red Wind's, because one hoof was chipped, but there was another set of hoof prints beside hers. Young Wolf followed the hoof prints across the meadow. The trail ended at a rocky slope. "Red Wind!" Young Wolf called. She did not answer. Young Wolf climbed the slope. Ahead he saw crushed blades of grass. "The trail!" he shouted. Young Wolf followed it past Lone Hill to Lone Hill Creek. There the trail disappeared again. "Red Wind!" he called. "Red Wind!" The only answer was the wind in the trees. Young Wolf turned back to his village. He needed to talk to his father. "Do you think the Apaches stole her?" Young Wolf asked his father. "No," said Eagle Feather. He showed the end of the rope to Young Wolf. "See how ragged the rope is? A wild stallion chewed it into two and took Red Wind," Young Wolf saw. "Will she come back?" he asked. Eagle Feather shook his head. "A wild stallion keeps his mares for himself." "Then I will go and get her," said Young Wolf. "No, my son. Not even a man can take a mare from a wild stallion." Young Wolf said nothing. His mind was made up. He was going after Red Wind, no matter what Father said. Young Wolf went to find his friend Little Big Mouth. "A wild stallion stole Red Wind last night," Young Wolf told him. "Oh no," Little Big Mouth said. Young Wolf moved closer so no one could hear her. "I am going after her." "I am going with you," answered Little Big Mouth. You are not afraid of wild stallions?" Young Wolf asked. "Nothing scares me, Young Wolf." They both laughed. Young Wolf knew Little Big Mouth was bragging. He talked that way to make himself feel brave. "Good," said Young Wolf. "Meet me at the big oak tree before first light." Chapter 2. The Search. Early next morning, Young Wolf waited under the tree. He thought about the wild stallion. Once he had seen two stallions fight over a mare. They had reared and kicked and bitten each other. What would a stallion do to a boy? Young Wolf shivered in the cool air. If only Little Big Mouth would come. His talk made Young Wolf feel brave too. Finally, he saw Little Big Mouth on his horse, Shadow, coming across the meadow. "I had to wait until my father went back to sleep," he whispered. "He thought someone was trying to steal Shadow." Young Wolf got up behind his friend. "Head for Lone Hill Creek," he said. "That is where I lost the trail." The sky had grown light by the time they reached the creek. "Maybe the stallion led for Red Wind through the water," Young Wolf said, "to hide the trail." "Maybe so," said Little Big Mouth. "You look upstream," Young Wolf said, "and I'll look downstream." The two boys searched the banks of the creek for hoof prints. "I found some," called Little Big Mouth. Young Wolf ran to his friend. In the mud, there were hoof prints. Yes, they are hers. Young Wolf knelt and pointed at one of them. See the chip here? This is Redwind's left front paw. Hoofprint. All morning they followed the trail. It led them across creeks and past clumps of oak trees. They climbed a high hill and looked around, but Redwind and the stallion were nowhere in sight. The two boys went on following the trail. In the afternoon, dark clouds slowly covered the sun. Then thunder rumbled. Suddenly, there was a flash of light and a crack. Shadow bolted. Young Wolf held on to his friend. A little big mouth held on to Shadow. On the horse the horse galloped through the driving rain. At last they ran out of the storm. Shadow slowed to a stop. In the valley below, a herd of horses grazed peacefully. There were brown ones, black ones, spotted ones, and Redwind. Besides her stood a pure white stallion with black ears. Young Wolf's eyes grew big. Only one stallion looked like that. Spirit horse, Little Big Mouth whispered. There were many stories told about Spirit Horse. He had magic powers. No horse in the world could match his strength and speed. How can I get Redwind back from him? Wondered young Wolf. Spirit Horse sniffed the air. He looked up at the boys. Redwind raised her head and turned her ears down toward them. Redwind! Young Wolf called. Spirit Horse reared up. He screamed. His mirrors bolted. Spirit Horse drove them across the valley, all but Redwind. She stood looking at Young Wolf. Now is her chance, he said. Little Big Mouth leaned forward. Shadow made his way down the valley. Chapter 3. The Fight. Redwind trotted downward toward Shadow. Young Wolf dismounted. He put his arms around the mare's neck. Will you come home with me? He whispered in her ear. Suddenly, Redwind's head went up. She looked across the valley. Spirit Horse was galloping toward them. Young Wolf could not think what to do. Horse charged at Shadow. Shadow reared. Little Big Mouth fell to the ground. The two horses had met at their hind legs. Shadow struck at the white stallion with his hoofs, but Spirit Horse got his teeth on Shadow's neck. Shadow staggered. Spirit Horse whirled around and kicked. Shadow went down. Little Big Mouth ran to his horse with a cry. Spirit Horse reared over to them. No! He screamed. No! Shouted Young Wolf. He ran to the white stallion and raised his arms. Oh, Spirit Horse, he said, I send my voice to you. Spare Little Big Mouth and Shadow. They do not want Redwind. Spirit Horse tossed his head and pawed the air. It is I, Young Wolf, who loves her. Spirit Horse's pale eyes looked at him. Then Young Wolf heard a voice like distant thunder. I will spare your friends, Young Wolf, said the voice, but Redwind is mine now. She is happy to be with the horse nation. Redwind trotted to Young Wolf and stood beside him. Spirit Horse came down on his front legs. Young Wolf looked at Redwind. Tears filled his eyes. Will I ever see you again? He asked. No, she said. I hope that means yes. Young Wolf said. He stroked the white blaze on her forehead. Redwind nuzzled his cheek. Then she turned to Spirit Horse. Young Wolf watched as they galloped off together. Chapter 4. Words of Stone. Little Big Mouth washed the bite off Shadow's neck. It was a brave thing you did, he said to Young Wolf. Spirit Horse could have killed us. Little Big Mouth pressed fresh grass to Shadow's neck. The sun set and the moon of blooming meadows rose. I don't know the way home, said Young Wolf. Do you? No, said Little Big Mouth, but Shadow can show us. All horses know. I hope so, said Young Wolf. Poor Will, came the call of Nightbird. It was lonely sound, but not as lonely as Young Wolf felt without Redwind. The moon was high when they came back to the village. All the teepees were dark except two. Our mothers keep the fires burning, Little Big Mouth said. Yes, Young Wolf answered. Maybe Redwind will come back, said Little Big Mouth. Maybe. Young Wolf turned and walked to his teepee. Eagle Feather came out. You caused us so much worry, he said. I am sorry, Father, but I had to find Redwind. Come inside, Eagle Feather said. Your mother and grandfather are waiting. Tell us what happened, my son, said the voice of the sunrise. Young Wolf told his story. When he was finished, no one spoke. The Eagle Father said, It was not a wise thing that I did, but it was brave. I only wish Redwind had come back with me, Young Wolf said. Redwind will always be in your heart, said Grandfather He-Bear. And some day you will love another horse. Young Wolf looked down and shook his head. No, Grandfather. Never. I will wait for Redwind to come back. Eagle Feather put his hand on Young Wolf's shoulder. Redwind is not coming back, my son. She loves Spirit Horse. The words felt like stones on Young Wolf's heart. Chapter 5. Snowwind. One winter passed, and another came. Young Wolf grew tall and strong. He had a new horse now. Still, he waited for Redwind to return. A heavy snow fell. Young Wolf and Little Big Mouth walked to the meadow. Look, there is enough snow to make a spirit horse, said Young Wolf. Then I can send my voice to him. The two boys worked all morning. They shaped the horse's head and neck. They carved his legs and sweeping tail. They gave him pieces of bark for ears and round eyes for stones. And round stones for eyes. Young Wolf raised his arm. Oh, Spirit Horse, you have ears to hear and eyes to see. Will Redwind ever come back to me? That night Young Wolf dreamed about Spirit Horse. When he woke, it was still dark. He put on his moccasins and wrapped a buffalo robe around his shoulders. Outside, the snow had stopped falling. Young Wolf walked the snow horse in the meadow. Everything seemed to be waiting, so Young Wolf waited too. No, it was a voice Young Wolf knew well. Redwind stood on the top of the rocky slope. Beside her was a colt as white as new snow. Redwind, whispered Young Wolf. Have you come back to me? But Redwind did not answer. She just pushed the colt with her nose. He made his way to the slope, alone. You're going to give me your colt? Asked Young Wolf. No, said Redwind. The colt came toward Young Wolf. Thank you, Redwind, he said, his heart filled with joy. Redwind gazed at Young Wolf and the colt. Then she turned and galloped away. The colt stood before him. I will call you Snowwind, said Young Wolf. He blew his breath into the colt's nostrils. The colt's nostrils. Smell who I am. Snowwind flared his nostrils. He turned his black ears to listen, just like his mother. That's it for today. Bye. Come back tomorrow.